We've teamed up with UK Auto Claims to see if you could be eligible to claim thousands in compensation. If you've had any cars, vans or motorbikes on finance between 2007 and 2021, well, just click the link below and start your simple free check.
Welcome back to AFTV. We're outside the Emirates Stadium. There are Liverpool fans beeping right now as they drive past in the van. And can you blame them? We wish this game had something more on it. We wish we were chasing them lot, but they've got the title wrapped up. So what are we playing for? It's second place. It's quite literally a bit of a head-to-head for it. If Newcastle win, they go above us, right? We're going to have a look at the Premier League table in a sec. But if Arsenal win, then we cement it. Lee, you were just saying in the build-up to this, you're calling it. There's actually something on this game. It's been a while since we've gone to a Premier League game. With actually a little bit of like, okay, this kind of matters a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is something on it, like, and you have to look at it. We're not guaranteed of Champions League football at this moment in time, and that is a big thing, So for me, it's a big game, and I do think that something on this game. We own Newcastle. They've been better than us this season in terms of the League Cup, and obviously when they beat us in the league, we haven't scored against them. So I think it's a big game for us, like, to set a marker as well. I think like Newcastle are going to be a team that's going to be challenging next season. Set a marker, new kit on, last home game of the season. Always got to try and managers have always said, like, leave a memory for the fans going into next season. So I do think it's a big game. Not as big as we want it to be, of course, but listen, I'm up for this game.
Slipped my mind for a sec. It's the last game of the Emirates season. It's not somewhere we've been particularly, dominant at, the Emirates.
Yeah.
I seem to trust us more away from home. Even in that Champions League semi-final, I think we played better in Paris than we did here. And look, Newcastle have come and beaten us here already once. So there are some wrongs to right a little bit.
There are. I mean, Lee's right. Newcastle have had a better season than us. They're a couple of points behind us in the league.
Yeah.
They've won a cup as well, and along the way they've beaten us 3 times without conceding. If there's any player in the world that we could pluck out of somewhere to pick up this summer, it would be Alexander Isak. So for those reasons, obviously there's interest in the game. I'm not as quite up for it as maybe Lee is or maybe you are, because I just feel like we're going to make Champions League. Like, by the time the kickoff even comes on Sunday at 4:30, we might have made it already because of other clubs not doing what they need to be doing to put us under pressure. So that's all up in the air. For Newcastle, finishing second, in my opinion, for them is a massive thing, especially how they've grown throughout the season. Whereas for us, it feels just like, I don't care if it's second, third, because we had high expectations and we've just come to the end of the season. Liverpool game at Anfield, now Newcastle at the Emirates, and they don't really mean what they should be meaning. So it's going to be a good game. I think Newcastle are a very good side. I think Lee's right. The next season or two, they're going to be up there. I'm surprised that their ownership hasn't really gone as gung-ho as I expected them to with the money they have, but they might be playing the longish game and being smarter by it. So every summer since the ownership has come in, I've been expecting them to really pull the trigger. And maybe this one's the one. Champions League football, a cup under their belts, and also a striker that many a club in world football would pluck out of there given a trace. So it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a tough game, more on the line for Newcastle than us, but we're at home. It's our last game. I'm interested to hear what Mikel says on the pitch at the end as well. I want to know and get the feeling of the vibe, because the last couple of years it's always been, don't be satisfied, we need to win. And I wonder what it's going to be on that pitch, talking about injuries and we were the best team in Europe, or is he going to actually tell us how it is and that we need to be winning something next year?
Yeah, I was distracted by some kids chanting "We love you, Tottenham" in the background. So I think there's all sorts of school trips and stuff going on. People having their fun. There's Liverpool fans driving past.
Should we rush them, Lee?
There's Tottenham fans. I mean, what's this in the Emirates,
100 kids against Lee judges in Turkish.
Yeah.
I back the kids.
What's the odds on that?
I back the kids.
I'll wipe out 25 of them with a slap.
Oh my word. Okay, anyway. So, Arsenal Newcastle. I looked at the table. I'm going to go back in front of me here. We're on 68 points. If we win our last 2 games, 74 points. That's 15 points off where we were last season. That's 5 wins. I mean, you can see it's such no... I don't think at any point we've had an injury crisis. I think we've had injuries. I think it's been unfortunate. I can't think of a spell of like maybe more than 1-2 games where I've gone out. We got out with 11 and I've looked at and gone, oh, that is bad.
Yeah.
For us to have dropped off that much, it can't just be about injuries. Newcastle on 66 points, 2 behind us. If they win at the Emirates as they did back in January in the Carabao Cup first leg, they will leapfrog us on 69 points, will remain on 68. Man City, they're on 65 points, what we calculated after the result at Anfield. Because of City's draw against Southampton, a draw and a win in either this game against Newcastle or against Southampton, whichever way you flip it, a draw and a win, 4 points, guarantees us second place. For Newcastle on 66 points, they are just about keeping an eye on Villa and Forest, who are within 4 points. Villa on 63 and Forest on 62. So this is a massive game for Newcastle, not just because we're looking up, but they probably just don't want to tempt fate a little bit either. If they lose, City, Chelsea, Villa, if they do their jobs, things get really interesting on the final day. Just want to have a look at some of those games coming up on the final day. We've got Villa going to Old Trafford, Newcastle host Everton, never an easy game. Chelsea themselves go to Nottingham Forest. So I guess interesting on the final day. And as you said with Arsenal, it's not all kind of completely signed, sealed, delivered. I think the fact that a few of them are sort of playing each other and have tougher games means we sort of relax, but it's really about securing second place. But what have you made of the top 4 race from Newcastle's perspective? I mean, at one point, if you cast your mind back to way earlier in the season, actually I think they were languishing 7th or 8th, if I'm not wrong, in that kind of first 10 games.
Yeah, they've done fantastically well, and obviously,
and now picked up a cup.
Yeah, and winning a trophy has given them that little confidence to go on. And I think whatever happens here on Sunday, I think that they'll be in the Champions League next season. I think it's a real interesting race. I think Aston Villa have got a give me on Friday against Tottenham, so they could go into the last game definitely with a shout.
They got United after that, so they might have 2
they could exactly. So I think Aston don't write off Aston Villa at this moment in time. Forest's got a chance. So at the end of it, you want it to go to the last game of the season, but Arsenal and Newcastle want to get the job done. Now I don't know if Eddie Howe and Mikel had a little chat with each other and said, let's both take a point here and go from there. I don't know, but listen, I think last home game of the season, let's not sugarcoat it, about injuries and whatever. It's been a disappointing season for Arsenal, try and end it on a high, just try and give us something to go into next season and go, look, they're one of the favourites to challenge us for next season. That's what we can do, that's how we can beat teams when they turn up. Obviously, Declan Rice looks like he's going to be fit for this game, which is a surprise after what was said last week. That's why I never believe anything Mikel says anymore. Trossard coming into the side, and I'm interested to see. Let's put Martinelli up front again and see what happens there. See if we can win the game. But I'm looking at it and thinking, right, I want to go into next season with positivity. Nice new kit, but more importantly, Arsenal taking care of one of their rivals and setting the marker. That's how I look at this game.
Let's talk tactics a little bit, Turkish, because Cecil's not hosting. I'll get to bring it up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I love about Newcastle? They're a little bit more old school in the way they approach the game. I think you can take a handful of teams in the league, and they're certainly one of them. It's not really positional play. It's not about particular players and particular systems. It's about everyone being able to do a job wherever they use. Joe Linton came in as a striker, reinvented a central midfielder, sometimes starts left wing. It's about energy, but they've got class on the pitch as well. And they're a team who physically we've struggled to live with. And I think they're one of the reasons. You look at this record we've got against the Big Six, it's slightly misleading because, yes, against the traditional Big Six, we've been brilliant for 2 years. Against Newcastle, we've struggled. Why is that? I think it's we can't live with them physically.
Yeah, you could probably add Aston Villa into that as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah,
I mean, Newcastle, on one hand, it's refreshing that a club that, outside looking in, I've looked at and said, if there's anyone with worse owners than us, it's them. Yeah. It's refreshing to see, we ain't got a rivalry with them. Their fans are in a place I've never seen them, or I haven't seen them since the Shearer days when they thought they was on the verge of something. So, in terms of Newcastle, it's, I admire the fan base and they have a stadium that, when you list off away grounds, they're up there, especially the fans, they're up there. But the team itself it's a reflection of the fan base. Heart, fight, passion, desire, determination. I look at their midfield and they've got all of those qualities in abundance. And funnily enough, 2 of their midfielders probably walk into our midfield, even though we've got a strong midfield. I think Tonali and Gomarish are 2 quality midfielders, let alone Isak up top. So
I think if you took if you took both teams' front sixes, midfield and forwards, we both play a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I think Gordon, Isak, Tonali, Guimaraes will start.
Yeah, Gordon's another one.
And they'd argue for Joe Linton. I think Declan Rice is in there, and I think Saka's in there. But I mean, if that doesn't highlight the work we have to do.
Even Harvey Barnes off the bench, you could argue, behind Trossard, who was meant to be our 12th man and turned out to be our starter.
Murphy's very underrated as well.
Murphy
His numbers are very, very good.
It's also a reminder of how quickly things change in football. You go back to last season. Odegaard would have walked into a combined 11. You go back 2 seasons ago, Partey would have walked into a combined 11. Partey would be one of our best players this season after we completely wrote him off from last season and not being available. Things change very, very quickly in football. There's work to do in the summer, but there's also work to do in terms of actually getting the players we've got back up to speed. And look, it can all start with just games like this. I mean, I tell you what, Lee, you're right. There's no rivalry necessarily with Newcastle. I mean, there is in terms of, two teams that want to compete at the top. But I do think there's this kind of sense of, maybe it's just me, but we lost at St James's Park. That's when we fell 7 points behind Liverpool. We never recovered. That was the game for me where the title started to really slip out of our hands. Back in November, they came here, beat us 2-0 in the Cup. Then we go up there hoping to turn around. They beat us 2-0 again. They're 5-0 up in 3 games. We haven't scored once. There's a little bit of I think we need to just shake it off and actually just beat them for the sake of reminding ourselves that we can, because I think these things can stick in your mind.
100%. They've had the better of us over the last couple of seasons. You know what I mean? I think that I got a 0-0 draw here once when outdone us again. And I think Mikel's got to look at it and go, look, you don't really want another manager having a better over you time and time again. You need to nail that, And
if I cut you, sorry, really quickly, Lee, those things stick. So, for example, we've gone and we were unbeaten on our last 4 trips at Anfield. That must matter to the players. We've gone unbeaten in the last 5 at Stamford Bridge. They will remember those things.
Of course.
Whereas against Newcastle, all they kind of know is losing at the moment, bar a 4-1 win, over a year ago.
Yeah, of course, and that's what happens. And listen, I think it's a feather in Mikel's cap, if you can, because Newcastle come here as the form team as well, so put one over them. Do I think we can? I'm not so sure. At this moment in time, I think that we've got a few weaknesses, and I think that that's what we've got to do. If we can get a result against them in here, and then you sign 3 or 4 big players next season, all of a sudden you think, look, well, we've got your number now again, and we're gonna keep doing it. But at this moment in time, Newcastle have got it on us. We don't know how to play against them. I think that their physicality raffles us a little bit. I also think the way that they play in the low block, and I'm not saying it's defensive and everything like that. They play a low block and then hit you on the break. It's something that is a weakness in Arsenal, and these are things that we've got to work out. And listen, I think Newcastle are a danger. I do think they're a danger, and they're astute with their tactics against us, and we've got to find a way of getting through it.
Okay, well, let's talk predictions then. Turkish?
I'm going to go who cares again.
Wonderful, thanks. Appreciate you taking part.
I'm going to go for Kai Havertz coming on, getting the winner,
Which reminds me, Kai Havertz.
Wake up. Seriously, pinch him.
I knew I'd get him. I got him there like that. He cares now, he cares.
Yeah, now he cares. It was a good time to remind you, so thank you for prompting that. The Kai Havertz, Jorginho, they trained. Rice trained, surprisingly. Trossard trained. Martinelli trained, came off, but came back on. There was an open training session here at the Emirates. So the assumption is that they are all available, which is quite a big boost. I mean, now everyone's available. Calafiora, okay, there we go. Funny old end to the season, this. Would you go full score prediction?
I think, I'd like to see Arsenal win 2-1, but I just feel like it'd be a draw 1-1.
Yeah, if I'm pushed to, say it's 2-2, 2-1 Newcastle, something like that.
I think we might, I'll be delusional. I think we'll end on a high. I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal. We still have to do predictions on Forever Arsenal, don't we?
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Okay,
tomorrow morning, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, look out for that. Jordan will be joining us. He's very upset he's not here for this preview. Could have been a Forever Arsenal takeover. All right, we'll leave it there. Look out for the Predict 11 with Laurie as well. Catch you very soon.